Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Shivang. Hi, Revati. Hi, 1001. We see the nub. Glimmer Rose. Hi, thank you. I can put a link for the playlist in the description so you guys can check it out. I'm good, Shivang. How are you? Wait, is Glimmer Rose Pia or is it Pacey the nub? We're just waiting for a few more participants, and I guess we can start in maybe another 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's great, man. Okay, Rose is Pia. Okay. Yes, sir. Is that? Identify yourself in 001, please. Hi, Mehak. Mehak is my sister. He is monitoring the stream from the other room. Akhilan is in the chat. He is the president for the tech club. Shout out to Akhilan. Ramsha. Okay, okay. Awesome. Cool, cool. Rock Respawn, is that Wesley? I think I've seen that DP somewhere. Uh, no, it's Gaurav. Okay, I think it's Wesley. um, okay, it is Gaurav. Okay, cool. Okay, never mind. All right. We have 10 people watching so far. I hope you guys can hear me. I think I've got responses, so I think I'm audible. Let me put my camera on so you can see me. Hi. Okay, great. Awesome. Yep, we hear you. Cool. Right. Hola. Yeah. Who's hand? Thank you. Osama bin Laden. Hi, Osama. How you doing, man? Cool. So, got people, around 13 people watching. Where's FBI? Hey, all right. So I was yesterday. I was having a dry run, and I was trying out a couple of settings with the lights, and I had like some RGB lights as well. I think you can see one light here. It's kind of like reflecting on my glasses, but we changed the setup now. It's going to be a little more normal lighting, and yeah, this is better than before. The aesthetic. Okay. So I guess we can start now. And just... So thank you everyone for joining. As you guys know, this I will be talking about UI UX. I'll be talking a little bit about what it is, and designing a very small user flow on Figma, which is a design tool used for making prototypes, um, user interfaces, and yeah, I hope it'll go well, and you guys get to learn something new. So yeah, represent. Hello, Nivet. Let me start sharing the PPT I have prepared. Let me just reduce the music volume a little. Okay. Let's start. I'm gonna open the live chat on my right side so I can see any questions coming up. So yeah, let's begin. Start. Hello, Mokshada. Hello, Lakshmi. Lakshmi has also joined. Okay, we're getting in more people. Let's just freeze it at the screen for maybe another minute, and let's see. Want everyone to be here. So yeah, in a minute we'll start. Here to learn. That's great, man. So if you're not able to watch this whole live stream, there is going to be the recorded version of this after the live stream over here on the same channel. And Mohit, who is our video editor, will also make a recap of this. So it's going to be like a 5 to 6 minute recap of the same session, and that'll go on our IG as well as on our YouTube. So you guys can check that out later as well. You make these? No. I got these from a resource I found online. The illustrations are not mine. Okay, so we can't put live text on the video at the moment, but I guess we can try to feature some people. Oh yeah. Hin's class, yeah. Something to watch out for all the boys going to study logic and proof. Cool. It's 5-9. We have 17 people, and yeah, I think we can start. So just to give you another refresh on the contents, first, basic intro to UI UX, what beginners can start with, and I'll just give you like a basic, very small, detailed, not very detailed, but just a very brief introduction to what UI UX is, the differences, and what the relevance is at the moment. And next, we will go through a small UI, a small user flow on Figma. So I'll be teaching basic operations on Figma. And hopefully, it'll give you guys a push to start exploring more and using more of Figma. I'll also explain why I'm using Figma, because there are already a lot of other tools such as Adobe XD, Sketch, InVision, and why Figma is better than all these. So we will go through all this, and yeah, let's start with the first one. What is UI UX? So let me just break out the terms. UI stands for user interface, and user UX stands for user experience. Um, in very simple words, UI is basically how does it look, and UX is how does it feel. So user interface, as you guys might have heard or like heard of what an interface is. So interface is basically something that a user interacts with. It can be on a screen, it can be your laptop's keyboard, it can also be the bottle cap. Anything that you interact with is an interface, and user experience is how you feel or what emotions you go through as you carry out that interaction. So one experience, I'll give you an example of an experience. Say I'm typing on my keyboard, and certain times there are different types of keyboards, and people have different experiences with their keyboards. So some of them like raised keys, some of them like mechanical, some of them like a flat profile, the butterfly switches, and it depends on what sort of experience you like. And the interface part is basically how the keyboard is going to look. So what color it's going to have, whether it's going to have black backlight on it, whether it's going to be white in color, or it's going to have serif font on it, sans serif font. But this all depends on the interface. I can give you another example of, say, back when cars were being built. They didn't have steering wheels in the beginning. What they had was a lever to turn the car left or right, and a lot of people found that this wasn't a very pleasant experience, because every time you move the lever, you would also move to the left or right, and this was a concern back then. So what car manufacturers did was they started researching, and they started asking drivers questions about what experiences what experience did they have. They started making notes. They started asking car manufacturers or engineers on what sort of technology do we have that we could change this lever. So they started exploring the problem more, and that's exactly what UX is. It's about problem solving. It's about exploring a problem, researching about it, and really just like finding out a solution. This is what a UX designer does. So the UX designer, okay, for this case, for the car manufacturer, found out that, okay, I think we could use a wheel instead, and that could be better to turn the car left or right, because we're using two hands here, and your body doesn't move as much as it did with a lever. So so this is what the solution they came up with. They tested it, and they took it to the UI designer next, who then planned out what sort of material the steering wheel would have. So whether it could have a leather strap on it, whether it would be made out of plastic, metal, what color would it be, and different features on the steering wheel as well. So would it have a horn on it, or whether you can add different buttons on it to maybe give an indicator. So all these sort of things, that's what a UI designer does. And the UX designer solves the problem, which is the main problem about how do we improve this experience of steering a car. This was just one example on how UI UX is being used to solve and improve user problems. And we can see in the next slide what it's composed of. So user interface is all about presentation, interactivity, and appearance. And user experience is about ease of use, user satisfaction, and user flow. So I'll explore these terms more as I go on in the workshop and also design the prototype. So hopefully we'll cover it then. And let's talk about the field relevance. So why is this field? Why am I talking about this right now? And why is there a lot of UI UX designers in the market at this point? So so it's all because of the rise of digital app platforms. So places like Play stores, Samsung stores. So all these places are basically marketplaces for digital apps, which users download to solve their specific problems. So this could be like booking a cab, or this could be like ordering food online, playing music, or streaming movies on your phone and making notes. So all these different problems or like needs are coming up, and there are a lot of companies who are investing their energies into like building such products. So what's happening is there is a lot of different apps. If you look at the App Store, I think recently the App Store hit around 1 million apps, and the Play Store has hit around 2 million. So you see the scale at which we are increasing the number of apps in the App Store and Play Stores, and this calls for which app is the best. What app do I use to solve my problem? And that's where UI UX comes in. People go like, hey, which app is better, and they do it based on what experience they have with the app. So they will be like, oh wait, dude, I used this app before, and it was very easy to use. I could understand what to do on this, and I was able to achieve what I wanted on this in very minimal way, and it was very simple to use. That's how apps get they become popular with such things, and that's why UI UX is becoming popular. It's because of the customer satisfaction that is the user is getting, and the goals that are being solved with it. So this is the reason why more that you see more companies and more startups applying UI UX, and you see a lot of job positions now. As it started back in 2010, when Google and Apple started investing more in design and the user interface, and now there are many jobs in this field, and hopefully in the next coming years, there's going to be an even more increase depending on the type of technology that we have. So this could be related to AR, VR, and there will be different user interfaces and experiences surrounding this. So there's going to be a lot of changes happening. Definitely by the end of 2020, we're going to see a lot of increase in the use of AI in different apps and AR, VR as well. So this field has a lot of relevance and an improvement. Yeah, so it's definitely something to look out for. And okay, wait, I had a meme right now. That's a lot of apps. So what I was trying to say was there are many apps on the App Store and have to download. So what they decided ultimately on is what their experience is, or how happy they felt while using it. And this is why UI UX has become important. It's because the user feels happy, or they feel like, oh, okay, I felt good using this app, and I was able to ultimately solve my problem. And that's how UI UX is becoming important. So another like few tips for new people or new beginners to look out for are these three places. Material design is Google's design guideline for designing interfaces. Human interface guidelines is Apple's guideline on designing user interfaces, and carbon design system is something that IBM uses in their products. So these all are open source except the human interface guidelines, and it's really good. It's a really good resource to check out for beginners. Let me take you guys through the material design, so you guys can see what it is. So I'm here, material.io. I've put the link in the description as well, so you guys can check it out. Um, it's a really comprehensive guide on different types of components and different resources that UI designers or UX designers need to look out for. It's good to be aware of everything. What all components you need, what are the steps you need to follow while you're making a design. So let me just go over the components section and tell you what components are. So components are basically things on the interface that you interact with. So as you might have known, buttons or the nav bar, or a card, or a dialog which would give you an option between confirming a delete action, checkboxes, radio buttons. So all these are components, and the interface is ultimately built using this component library. And there are different reasons as to why you need to use a certain type of component. And say if you go into a slider component, you can read about why you use a slider. But it says here the usage of a slider. So it allows users to view and select a value or a range along a bar, and they're ideal for adjusting settings such as volume, brightness, or applying image filters. And we see this in our phones. We see it on Instagram if you want to increase the effect of a filter, and it's really easy to use it because of the slider, because that's what it's used for. It's very intuitive to sort of strength or effect using a slider. So it's really good documentation for beginners to read, and I recommend any developer or designer to read this, as it's really good to just like get to know what components you need where, and gives you a good sense of okay how to design something. There's also a lot of documentation on the code side. So if you go to say, yeah, let's go to the sliders part as well. So if you go here, it says developer documentation. So you can find out how can I get this component on, say, Android, the Android platform. So it gives you the code here as well. So it's all available over here. You can check it out. Even for the other webs, even for the other guidelines, even for human interface guidelines, you can find the developer components. I'm on the human interface guidelines page here. If we go into iOS, you can see the different principles that go into this design guide, and you can view the different components here. So these are buttons on iOS. This is what buttons look like. You can see what style of buttons are used where. Add contact buttons, so it could be a plus inside. And if you click over here for developer guidance, you can see the code that is used behind this sort of UI. And this can be used in Swift on Xcode. So this is like a really good resource for beginners to look at and understand what components you need to use where. This is Carbon Design System. It's again similar to the other ones. You'll find the same components here. This is this is a checkbox. So what style of checkboxes do you need to use over here, and when not to use them? So it gives you a difference between the circle style and a square style. The circle one is actually a radio button, and it gives you a reason where you only need one object or one item to be selected, and checkboxes where more than one items can be selected. So these guidelines, or these different guidelines created by Google, Apple, and IBM help you help you decide which component to use where. So that's really good. You also get to interact with this sort of checkbox, so you can see how it works, and even you also get this feature over here, so you can also have a look at more UI components. So let's go to tabs. So you guys can see tabs. So what are tabs used for? Tabs are used for organizing content across different screens, different data sets. You might see this on say if you go to a YouTube page, you might see this is about or videos or playlists or something like that. So it's data sets that you can see. So yeah, that was about resources. Another good place for UI designers to get inspiration from is Dribbble. So Dribbble is basically a place for designers to post their work, and the reason why I didn't add it to my list before was because Dribbble doesn't really tell you why you need something. It only focuses on the visual aspect, so it focuses more on the presentation. So it doesn't tell you, okay, why you need some sort of UI, or why is it like this. It doesn't give you the reason. And for beginners, this is not really a good place to start, because Dribbble also has some designs that break the best practices, and this is something that you shouldn't follow. You should always try to go along the best practices, as that is what is commonly used, and that is more intuitive and popular. So only after you have some sort of experience as a designer, and you've taken your time going through the different guidelines, and now you know what components have to be used where, you can start looking at Dribbble and kind of applying more skins and more visuals to your designs. So maybe we could just look at a example here where you can see it says here it's a travel guide, appointment and booking app. So you can see that it's very different to the material design, which is which is a lot of it's a very Google style doing things. This is like a default, you might have seen this in your settings, and this is like heavily skinned, and it has its own sort of card styles, rounding, um, you know, the fonts as well. So all this is, after you've gained considerable experience as a designer, you can start exploring your own styles. So Dribbble is a good place. Another place is Behance, which is again similar to Dribbble, but it focuses more on why. So Dribbble was okay what, and this is more about why. So if I go into a UI UX project on Behance, uh, I have I have a mood board here on Dribbble on Behance, sorry, on which I save a lot of good projects. So this is for a smart home. So over here you can see, design process. You can see what the designer, the UI UX designer went through while creating this UI. And there was first a research phase, then the analysis, then analyzing the different user needs and personas, creating an information architecture, and sketches and prototyping it, testing it, and designing it. So this part that you can see, the first 6 points are basically what a UX designer would do. So the UX designer basically researches, he analyzes the different users, he looks at the different user needs. If you look at the car example, the the UX designer would look at, okay, what sort of needs does the driver have? They don't like moving across the seat, right? So they would want something where they can sit still and control it with ease, and they could control it without much strength required, because if you needed to turn a car, you would have to push the lever like really hard to turn. So that is taken into consideration. And um, Shivang is asking a question: which website do you prefer for prototyping? Um, Talking about inspiration, I generally look on Behance, and I start looking over there for certain. If I'm making like a booking app, I'll start looking at different booking apps on the App Store and also on Behance. So that gives me an idea of what the competitors are using, and also what are the new styles that designers are using on say Behance projects. So that's what I use. Here's an example of a user persona. So it's basically information about a user, what their user type is, what goals do they have, what are their frustrations. Then we get to the wireframing stage, which is, as you can see, it's very similar to our screen, but it's more like it's a very skeleton version of it. So it's basically wires as in wireframing to represent the final screen, and this is usually used during the prototyping stage. And what this is what the UX designer would create, which is a wireframe that would depict all the different components required, and pieces that would solve the user problem. So over here, if this was the home page, you can see that you can see different rooms here for a smart home, on which you can see maybe devices inside it, what devices are currently switched on. You have a navigation bar here, which gives you access to other pages in the app. Could be maybe this is like I think it's for energy. This could be a profile, maybe settings. So yeah. Next, we have the information architecture, which is basically the overview of the entire app. So it gives you a list of different screens on your app. What sort of screens would you need? And this is useful while you create a flow. So as the developer, or as you organize your different screens, the information architecture would help you organize it better, and fix any sort of repeating points, or places where you could go into a loop. So that's what information architecture is useful for. The colors and fonts are basically the what colors you're using. This is more of a UI designer role. Um, and sometimes the colors can also depend on your brand. So if okay, I have a couple of questions here. Who are your design heroes? Who inspires you in the world of design? So So I have a couple of design heroes. One of them is Vijay Varma. He's the lead designer at Zomato. He has done like a lot of good work on Zomato's UI. He has created something called the Sushi Design System, which is the design system that Zomato uses across their range of products on their apps, on their delivery portal as well. So everything that Zomato uses is like through a design system. So Vijay Verma is one. Then second one is this guy called Pablo Stanley. He's the designer at Envision Studio, and he also has a lot of good work on online. You can just search for him. You can see his work. He's done a lot of good illustrations as well. He's an illustrator and a UI designer. So definitely, like, if you guys want to look out for design heroes and get inspiration, it's recommended to follow these guys. These guys are like on top of their game. Cyrus asks me, are there any apps or resources you could use for wireframing? Um, so for wireframing, what you could do is, instead of using apps, I think Figma is good enough. On Figma, you have something known as the community section, which I was gonna go towards the end, but since you've asked me the question, you can find a lot of wireframes over here. And what you can do is use these wireframes to build whatever type of app you want. So I could maybe get into like this Figma wireframe kit, and I can see the different. If you can look here already, you can see some cards here. What you can do is just use this wireframe kit to create whatever type style of app you want. So I recommend using this, or the next best tool is, or actually the first best tool would be paper and pen, just to draw out what you want on your UI, what components you want. This is more of a it's more of a high fidelity version of a wireframe. So yeah, either you go for Figma using wireframe kits, or just use paper and pen, right? Then the fonts is also about the UI. That's more of a UI designer tool, where the UI designer decides what sort of fonts or typography do I need to use on the user interface. What sort of rounding do I use? Do I use gradients on it? Do I make my buttons rounded, or do I make them squared? So this is whatever the UI designer would decide. Then it's just some screenshots of the app. So Behance is a pretty good place. As I said, it's amazing to find different projects. You could just go over here, and if you go to search, um, maybe search for something in interaction. Hold on. Yeah, so since I'm following a lot of interaction projects, I think I can see them here. You can look at a lot of different apps that people or designers are making, and they're posting their work on Behance, and they also post their reasons, or like their principles behind UI, and it's pretty good for beginners to read these documents. So definitely must go through for this. Um, so next, so I mean that was so those were some good resources for UI designers to look at. Always keep your eye out for new style of designs. Follow different pages on Instagram. There are a couple of good pages on Instagram that show different trending UIs and UXs, and keep in touch with different companies as well. They keep changing their UIs, and they also documented why they have done this. So recently Google had a design overhaul with their whole Google, their whole Android system. They had some logo changes, and all these are done for based on the trending, or the trends for this particular decade or something like that. So it's good to keep your eye out for new changes and things happening in design. Okay, so enough theory. Let's get designing on Figma, and let me show you guys what we're going to create. So oops, oh no. Okay, so what are we going to design? So what we're going to do is design a small sign-up flow on Figma. It's going to be a sign-up flow for a concert app, which is, let's say, it's an app for people to find events. Okay, not concerts, maybe more than concerts. So it could be live shows, could be different performances. Um, and yeah, let's see. Let's design a sign-up flow for that. And I have a small diagram here, which might look like a lot of technical jargon, but it's super easy. I can explain what it is. So over here you can see something known as the client. Let's start from here. So the client basically requests for login or sign up using a phone number. So we're using phone number to sign up. That gets sent to the app's backend, which is the service on the app, which will look at the number and see whether, okay, does this what is this number looking for? It validates the number and it gets out specific data that is needed by the user service and which is sent over here. Then the user service basically generates an SMS and generates an SMS request and sends that token to the telephony API. So this API will basically send out an SMS to the following phone number that you have entered, and the code that you're sending inside the SMS is what you have to verify. So that's a token. So that token is sent to the user's phone through SMS. So you'll get an SMS on your phone saying, okay, this is your code for logging in, and this code also at the same time gets sent to the user service. So this is what we are verifying. And you enter so it's pending for a verification now. So after you press on send, what you get is a verification screen where you have to enter the SMS and where you have to enter the code from the SMS. And after you're verified, you are logged in, or you're taken to the next step of sign up. So let's get on to Figma. Let's go to figma.com. And let me tell you guys a little bit about Figma first, before we can start designing it. So if you go to figma.com/about, you'll see, it's basically a showcase of why you need to use Figma, but I think I'll go on the design page because this gives more details about what we're using it for. So it's used by UI designers to basically UI UX designers to create prototypes of different apps, app designs, not only apps but also for websites, and maybe it could also be a TV screen or it could be a watch screen. So any sort of interface, Figma is good for designing on this. And why is it good is due to some pretty good reasons. The first one being it's available through any platform. So you have Figma available on the web. It's basically you can design on Mac OS, on Windows, on Linux, and it doesn't restrict you to any sort of platform. So that's one reason why Figma is really good. Another reason is because of the auto layout feature, which is, as you can see here, it's a very responsive style of designing. The next one is for collaboration, which is collaborating with different people. So in big teams, what you have is you have a lot of people. You have, say, like 20 different designers designing on a huge design system. So in that case, Figma is really helpful because you can invite your team members and you can design simultaneously in real time. Different apps such as Sketch, which was being used until the last few years. Now people are moving to Figma because of its really good features. And Sketch didn't have that real-time collaboration. So that's one reason why people are shifting to Figma. Also, it has more features than Sketch. Some people say that this Figma has some more extra features that are really good for designers, as it removes your focus from okay, trying to design something that's going to take time, and it helps you focus more on the actual problem. So that's one reason why I am taking up Figma to design this one, as this is better than the other software that is out here. This is my own opinion. That's what I feel. You can also see this compare section over here on the website, and you can read reasons why this particular software is being used or being preferred more. So okay, I think there are some questions. I just want to see live chat. but hold up. Hmm. So in this world, running in design, what do you think makes certain designs or interfaces stand out to me? Um, it's more about the experiences, in my opinion, that makes the ultimate design or interface stand out. It's how I feel about, if I'm using, okay, I wouldn't be using, but if I say let's take an example of TikTok, on which if you've ever used it, you can see that while you're watching the videos, it gets really addictive, and that's because of the style or the experience of what they've created. So this is like it's like you just keep sliding and you keep watching the different videos, and that makes you really engaged with their content. So I think it's more of the experience that makes a overall app or design stand out. Do you prefer XD or Figma? Okay, so Parna is asking me a question. Um, so I started out with XD, and it was pretty good until I started hearing that people are moving to Figma, and a lot of design teams are sticking to using Figma as their main tool. So I started moving to Figma in the last 2 3 months. I've started practicing more on Figma, and it's pretty good. I think Figma is going to be my top tool for let's see, like whenever next. But Figma is pretty good. Okay, Mehek asks me any popular apps whose design you really like and like to improve. So popular apps whose design I really like. First one is Zomato. I think they have a really good UI. The entire typography and the usability, the whole experience is really good on Zomato. Another app I like is WhatsApp. I think WhatsApp has been used as is using native components in their design. You just look at WhatsApp's UI. Let me just show you. And then you'll see that a lot of their design components are extremely native. What native means is it's very close to the system UI, and you can see that in this app bar over here. If you've seen this in the settings app on iOS as well, you'll see the same style of app bar. If you go to if you edit a contact or something, you'll find a similar style of UI. So what they're doing is using the system's native UI, and WhatsApp is an example of how native UI can be used to make a good experience. It's very straightforward to use, and I think it has a pretty simple and easy to use UI. Next question was any apps whose design you'd like to improve. Um, any apps? So I think there was one app which was I was using recently. Um, I think it was some learning app. I don't know if I can say the name. It wasn't testing actually. No, it wasn't a learning app. It was a taxi booking app, and one of my friends have worked on it. So yeah, the WhatsApp. So so that app, I felt like there were some issues with the contrast of the different text on the screen and everything. So it was a little difficult to just use. So I think the interface for that app could be used, but yeah, that's what I feel. All right. So I'm done with the questions. Let me just try to get my laptop working. I think it is out of charge. Um, my sister could just get the charger from inside of the MacBook. It's dead. Uh, all right. So yeah, back to Figma, where we at. So yeah, let's get designing on Figma. After you create an account on Figma, it takes you like literally seconds to get started on Figma. It's super easy. After you create an account, you get this sort of screen on which you'll have this left side on which you can see your different sections. So this could be for searching, recent projects, and drafts. So drafts are basically your projects And over here, beside the drafts button, you can see a new file. What you can do is click on new file and it will create an untitled file for you. So once I'm in Figma, um, this is the UI for Figma. This is how any project you start out will look like. If you've used design tools before, it's pretty similar to Adobe XD, Sketch, Illustrator, and even Photoshop. It's got a lot of those same concepts about rectangles, pen tools, text boxes, and it's got a little bit more. It's more cute. It's more catered to UI design. So so that's why we're using Figma and not something like Photoshop, which was used like before any of these tools came up, and that was being used by UI designers, Photoshop, Illustrator to create UI designs. So so let's get started with our first component or a first actually item on the screen, which is a mobile screen. How we're going to create that is by pressing F. It creates it goes into this frame mode. So what a frame is basically the artboard, or in Figma it's called a frame, which is basically what your screen is. So over here I can go to the phone section and I can select a screen that I would like to create. So I'm selecting here as iPhone 11 Pro size, which is this one. Or if you want to create a frame of your own custom size, what you can do is press F and then just drag out whatever size you want. But we're not going to use that for now, so I'm just going to press delete and remove that. And so yeah, looking at our sign up flow, the first thing we need is, okay, this is a little complicated. I'll just dictate what we're going to need. So the first thing we need is some sort of a welcome screen when a user opens the app. So they should be greeted with some sort of hello, this is what we're doing, and it could be like a slider of like different text, which could be like, okay, we're doing this thing, you can do this thing on our app, and just a list of different services that you're offering on your app. So that could be on a welcome screen. The next thing we could have is a button to create an account. The next button could be if you're already an existing user, to sign in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press T. So this is to create the first text, which will be a service or like something that we're doing. And let me just drag out. So what I'm doing is pressing T and then dragging it out. So it creates a text box, and I type here a text like find and book events around you. This could be one example. Let's give it 36 px size. Okay, so on the right side, what you can see is different properties for whatever object you're selecting. So on the top, there are some alignment properties which you can use to align to left, center, right, up, middle, bottom, and once you have more than two objects, what you could do, once you've selected more than two objects, you could also adjust the alignment between them. So this could be, how much spacing you have. So if I have three objects here, and now I want to align them with like equal spacing in the center, what I can do is select this option. That's what the alignment tools are. Let's get rid of these. Next we have just X, Y coordinates, the width and height. This is the angle, so pretty straightforward. Constraints. So this is something that's used in responsive design. What you do is basically you have different constraints. So what happens is if I resize my UI, this particular item or object is going to stay along the left side. If I increase the size from the left side, you can see that it's moving with equal spacing over here. So this is useful for when you're having websites or responsive. If you're designing responsive websites, you can have a same UI and you can experiment with different sizes or different widths. So I'll change this to center. But over here, in this use case, we're just designing it for one screen. So it's fine to have no constraints set on this. But if you put center, you can see what happens here. it stays in the center. All right. Next we have just some layer options. So this could be different blending modes. This is just to change opacity. The text part is kind of important. This is where a lot of the magic lies. Typography is really important in UI design, and it's good to have good fonts on whatever you're using. And one pretty good font is it's used in a lot of apps. A lot of companies use Montserrat. It's completely free. If you guys want a really good font resource, it's Google Fonts. Link is in the description. You can find out different fonts hosted by Google. So I think there are some audio glitches. Hope it's fine now. But yeah, so you can search for different categories here as well. So I'm looking for a serif type font, and I see a couple of options, and if I want, I can also test out, say, this style of this style. What does it look like? I like this one. I could just select and I could download it here, and I could see the different styles as well. So Google Fonts is a pretty good resource. And one really amazing thing is that Figma uses Google Fonts. So whatever fonts you see over here are are available on Figma. Oops. So uh, okay, other design tools you mentioned are paid. No, they are not paid. Figma is completely free to use. If you want to move to a team package, which is different from collaboration features, Teams is more of a more to like create bigger design systems and for companies. So for that, it's paid, but for the first year, it's completely free. You can invite friends and your teammates to just like design with you. So the Figma is free. So yeah. Otherwise, Sketch has a trial period for I think 4 5 days. Adobe XD is also free, but if you want to collaborate, that's paid. And InVision is also free, but I think the collaboration features in that are also require payment. So we've created our text field. This is our caption for the welcome screen. I'm just gonna go with an extra bold weight, or maybe try something bold. And over here, I can play with the letter spacing, just how much space is there between the different characters. So I don't know, something at around -4 looks nice. Let me also reduce the line spacing, which is just the amount of space between the different lines. Make it small. I'm using the arrow key to go down on that. And so we have that ready. Next, we need a button. So this button would be for getting started with, get started with sign up or creating an account. So for button, what I'm going to do is simply press on rectangle tool, and I'll be able to draw out a rectangle on the screen. If you guys want to look at the different shortcuts or what I'm using, what you could do is look at the top toolbar here and just look at the different shapes you can create. And there are shortcuts beside the type of shape there is. So I can press L for line, I can press O for making an ellipse. And if you want to make it like proportional, what you have to do is press shift. So you press O and you press shift, and then you create a rectangle. Or if you don't press shift, what it's going to do is make a very irregular sort of not proportionate circle. So pressing shift helps you create items or objects on your screen proportionally. So cool, we have our box here. I'm just going to give it a little more width. Then I think the height can be at 50. So after designing a lot of different components and screens, you sort of get an idea of what size you want on the screen. So generally using 328 by 50 on the 10 screen is pretty good for having a button. So this is what I'm using. Let's give it a color. For now I'm just gonna keep it black. I'm gonna change it later. I'm gonna make a text field here. I'm just gonna write get started, and you guys can see it's following the style from the previous text box. I'm gonna make it 14, make it white. Put it in the center using this alignment. Then what's my favorite font? So I really like Montserrat. Montserrat is in my opinion, it's very robust. I can use it on any sort of interface and it looks good. Another good font is Poppins. So Poppins is that's what it looks like. And the reason you might also see me using like really bold and heavy weights is, yes, Montserrat again. The reason I'm using bold weights is because of a trend which is being followed in a lot of different apps, that using bold fonts is sort of the trend right now. It's a design trend. So you'll see a lot of apps or startups and new apps using a little heavier weight on their designs. So for the button, I'll stick with a medium. Change this black to Montserrat. And so another text option you can change over here is this. What this does is it creates the text box to be the size of the sentence or whatever character you have typed inside the text box. This is auto width. So now the width of the text box is going to be anything I type in this. So just to, if I want to align it with this, it's not in the center anymore. I can use the align tool here. I can also align to the center. So now it's perfectly in the center. This interface, Uber's UI is white and black. That's what their color scheme is, and they also have sharp corners on their buttons. It's quite similar to Uber at the moment, but no worries, we will change it in a while. Next we need, say, if you're already signed in, so what happens then? So we can just duplicate this item. So how I did that was selecting both these items with the rectangle and our text and pressing Alt and then just dragging it out. Yeah, that's true. It adds more vitality. It definitely makes the character, like it gives you like a character and also pops out the different components. So now what we can do is just, as I said before, press Alt or Option if you're on Mac, and then just drag this out like that. And if you want to keep it in the center, because sometimes you might do this. If you want to keep it in the center, again, press Shift, Alt at the same time, and then drag it out like that. So it gets snapped to like the first objects, whatever axis you're on. I can also do this with the y-axis. So if I press Alt and Shift and then drag it on this side, it stays fixed to this. That's a pretty good shortcut to quickly design something without making a lot of movement on your screen. So this could be sign in, and okay, Alistair asks, is text aligned to the left the preferred standard convention? So it's not really like, it depends on what visual style you want. I'm using left align because, it's natural to read from the left hand side. You can also have it in the center because this text is not very small and it's more of a caption. So so it depends on what style you want. If you're using smaller text, I would prefer to, I would recommend using it from left to right. I hope that answers your question. So I'm just gonna make this extra bold because it's sort of what my knack is saying. Okay, I'm just gonna push this up a little, and it's feeling a little incomplete. So I think what we can do is add a small message below this. I think it could say something like find the best events or something like that. So let me just change that. Oops, let me go here. So this was going to change it to auto hide. Now I can just increase the size from here. Find or for the consequences. Okay. This is in your melody. So that's one, and we're just gonna align it with the rest of our buttons. So if you see that I'm keeping a specific space on the side, and that's because of a safe margin. And if you look at the different guides that I've mentioned before, the material guides, what they talk about is safety margins, and these are basically areas on the screen where the user might touch accidentally. So it could be as you're holding the phone, you might touch the edges, and you might go to something you might do an unwanted action. So what you want to do is keep a safety margin on the left and right hand side, and even the top and bottom to just keep clear of any unwanted feedback. Let's push this up a little here so we have it close by. So we're keeping a little bit of the flow. So as you read, you automatically go to the next one, and then you see, okay, that's what it means. Like pressing the call button. Yeah. So sometimes, as you're using the UI, some buttons are placed closer to your hand or to your finger, to your thumb. You might end it by mistake. So that's one thing to look out for as a UI designer, or whenever you design an interface. So this could be our first caption on our welcome screen. I'm just going to move this down a little. And the reason why is because this part is looking very empty, and what we're going to do is fill it with an image. So for the image, what I'm going to use is Unsplash, which is a really awesome source for finding stock images. These images are free to use, and you could just go to unsplash.com to look for any sort of image. So here I'm talking about events. So let me look for a talk or something like that. Like photos of a concert. Okay, so this looks cool. Let's download this. I'm just gonna save the large size. And using large size is good because it makes your work very high quality. So I recommend using non-pixelated images. Just go here, and I just go to my Figma file and just leave the photo on top. So what it does, it fills the frame with the picture. And I'm just going to reduce the size, not by just dragging it, but pressing shift and then dragging the edge. So that makes the image smaller proportionally. So Glimmer Rose is saying Pexels is another source, which is also really good. It's similar to Unsplash, and it's also again free images. You can download and use them on any sort of design you want, even for presentations or whatever you want to showcase. You can use Unsplash. All right, so I have my image set. I need to send this to black because I'm using it in the back side. So what I'm going to do is just right click on this object, and I'm going to send to back. And you might see that, wait, okay, I can't really see on the screen. What we're going to do is just select the screen, and on the right side you can see selection colors. Selection colors tells you what are the different colors that are present on whatever you've selected. So right now there are just two colors I've used. What I can just do is select this, which was the black color, and make it white, and select the white color, which was the text before, and make it black. So in that case, it's really quick to just like switch over the style, and this is why Figma is focusing more on the solving the problem than figuring out how to change those small things. And hold up, this looks very bright. So that brings me to my next point, which is you should never like use very strong or pure white colors on your screen. You should always fix it to something that's a little darker or toned down to the real white. I'm going to use a type of white, which is FA. This is slightly darker, and it doesn't create a lot of contrast between the actual background and the front. So I hope I've applied FA everywhere, and so the get started button, this get started text is looking very small. I'm just gonna make it any bold, and the next thing is, you see both of them have the same color. Both of them are white, and this is not the best practice. What you need to do is you need to make one call to action on your screen. So how I'm gonna do this is by changing the color for get started. I'm gonna turn it into something that's a little different. So this could be our brand colors. So over here, I think I will just pick something off the screen. Okay, that's too dark. I think this purple shade looks cool, so I'm gonna go ahead with this purpley shade. There's a lot of research done even behind choosing colors. In the research phase, you sort of pick out, okay, for your app or whatever problem you're solving, what color looks the best. So you might see Zomato and Talabat using orange and red colors because that is what evokes, hunger, and you might see Facebook using something like blue because that's what spreads, like happiness or like cheerfulness, optimism. So so yeah, there's like a color psychology involved as well. So Mehak is asking, can you do one box in FA and one in pure white so we can visually compare? Yeah. So let's take this box over here, and let me just get a copy of this and do it in F, just pure white. And as you can see, like it doesn't look like there's a lot of difference. In the first place, if you zoom in and check, it doesn't look like there's a lot of difference. But as you use a purer white, what happens is it creates strain on your eye. So over a long period of use, it's going to affect your vision or like your experience at the end. So it's always advised to use not a pure version of white, but to use a little bit toned down version of white. Right, and as you can see now that I've made this purple and this thing is black, so it's creating it's a little difficult to read. So for that, what you do is, so that there isn't enough contrast, and there is a contrast guideline available that you guys can read. It's called WCAG, and it's really important for certain apps to meet this guideline, and even for many design awards, they look out for you guys following certain guidelines on WCAG, or it could be human interface or material that could ultimately, like, that could basically lead to a better usability and then the award at the end. So what we're going to do is just make this white so that there's enough contrast. There are different plugins available on Figma that allow you to check the contrast. So let me see if I have a plugin already installed on this. If I go to my settings one over here, I can see the plugin section, and I have a list of plugins here, but I don't see contrast. So let me go to the plugins page. And plugins are basically, extensions to the current app. So these are features that people have made, and you can use them to improve your workflow. I can just look for a. I don't see. Usually it's pretty easy to search for plugins. I'm not able to find it now. Community. What contrast? Okay, so if not on Figma, I can check the contrast online. And then what I can do is basically add, I can basically take this color, which is my background color, right here, and then take my foreground color. And here you can see that, okay, the contrast ratio is 1.7, which is not like, wait, not white. All right, okay, that's good. Now you can see that the contrast ratio is perfect. It's 5:1, and that is the best. So you're passing all sort of WCAG, AA, AAA standards, and that's what we want to go for. So yeah, this is perfect. Next up, what I'm gonna do is show how to add corner radius, how to change the corner radius on this. After you've selected the rectangle, you can see this small dot over here. And what you could do is just drag this inside, and it will basically bring in all the corners. Or you could go here and change the corner radius from this side. So by 20, maybe change it to 10. Actually, let's just go full rounded on this because I just feel like similarly for this one as well. I can change the corner radius at the same time for both of them by selecting both and then changing it from here. So put it to a really high value, makes it fully rounded. Yeah, that's a difference between using actual UI design tools and design tools meant for like Illustrator or Photoshop that are meant for more that are based for more pictorial sort of pieces that could be illustrations and posters or something like that. So hold up, we see a problem here, right? You see like the image is sort of hiding our text. What we do here is, in this case, we can add a drop shadow. And to add a drop shadow in Figma, all you got to do is on the side, just below the text options, you can see an effects option here. You just click plus on that, and it creates a drop shadow. So that's a really quick way to create a drop shadow. You can edit the drop shadow by clicking on this effect settings page, on this effect settings button, and you get some more options. So blur would basically be how much of the darkness you're seeing that's evened out. Spread is how far the shadow would go. So I can just show it to you guys. Oh, but it says that I can only use the spread for a rectangle, so not for the text. So yeah. Then the opacity, so you can see it increase here, but we're not going to put it like really high. So let's just keep it at what it was. That's perfect. Just down. Reduce the opacity of the image. So we could do that. That's a good idea. But currently our frame's color is white or something. That one was black. So we could do that. So make sure your background is good. So I'm gonna take your suggestion and make this something like 80 or 70. That's looking good. Another thing you can do is maybe create a gradient in the image, which could be like a black gradient and slowly fading out as it goes up, and that could help your text be more readable on the page. So yeah, this solution works for us. We'll go with this. Next, what we can do is maybe put like our app name somewhere on the top, just to like tell you what this app is, or what the app's name is. So I'm just gonna create simply just a text box and write a name called Evently. I'll use Poppins for this. Make it extra bold. Make it white. I'm gonna center line this and maybe try 24. How would we align it rest? With the background maybe darker now, should the text be a slightly duller shade of white to avoid the strain? So that is a good point. Since there isn't a lot of contrast, needed, we could try out a different shade of white. But we could just go on with this one for now. Let's just let it be at this point. Or we could just change all of it at once. We have FA, let's try VF5, a little more toned down. Right. So that's our welcome screen. you've basically highlighted what your app is. You've given out, okay, this is what our app is about, and you're giving the user two options, either to get started. Maybe you could change the text here to say, maybe create an account so that it's clearer to the user on what action to take. And if they want to basically sign in, then what, or sign up, what do they do? So this will be clearer. And sign in if they have an account. So we can change the name of our screen from here, which you basically have to select it. And on the layers panel, which is the left hand side, you can just double click and then change it to not welcome. Welcome. And yeah, that's our first screen. You can keep playing around with the different components. You can arrange them in a different style. You can also add a progress or page tracker, which could basically be different features, and that could be sliding continuously on the screen. So it could be like 3 different dots. And actually, let me just show you a quick way to make that. What you could do is press O, so that goes to the ellipse mode. Drag out the circle, pressing shift, and then add a stroke on it and make the stroke white, because this is a very tiny element, so it's fine to keep it FFF as pure white and keep the fill as pure white as well. That's okay. And you guys will see in a second just how quickly I can iterate these designs. So I've just duplicated this using Control C, Control V, and it goes on top of each other. What I can do is just select all of these once, and then just like move it a little like this. And what I'm going to do now is just drag this out a little over here, leave some space, select these objects, just like slide over them. So you select. Do you see that it has also selected the background image? So what I'm going to do is just press shift and then do that. So it unselects that object. Now I'm going to use the align property to just distribute the horizontal spacing. So now it's like this. And then I'm going to go to the auto layout tab. This is a really helpful feature in Figma, and it helps you create more responsive designs. So what I'm going to do is just press plus here, and you can see a couple of settings, which is this one, which is the spacing between the different elements. And the heck is asking, can you upload a logo on this as well? Yes, you can. Just like how we uploaded the image, you can drag in an SVG or a PNG and then place it over here, or like wherever you want. But just make sure that your logo is clear on the screen. So now we have that. Let's increase the spacing a little. So let's make it 12. And I'll give you an example of how this is responsive. So if we have a horizontal layout, we can get a vertical version of this. And you can try out different options here, horizontal padding, and that's useful for making buttons. That's more of like an advanced thing when you start making more responsive designs. But for this use case, we will just stick to this style. So these buttons look pretty big. These page trackers look pretty big, so I'm just going to reduce their size by that much. And them in the center here. What I'm going to do is just select, and then I will just hide the fill. Now it looks like, okay, I'm on my first page right now. And this will slide automatically. So we're not going to design the rest of the screens. I'm just going to let it be like this. So that's just like an example for the next scenes. NXT football videos is asking, don't you think XD is better because of the repeating grids feature and gamepad support? So XD, yeah, definitely it has this single feature or these two different features, which I also really miss them in Figma. But I think it's repeating grids are mainly useful when you are replicating a lot of different data. Now I've realized as I was using the feature more and more, I got more used to it. I got used to creating more of these different data blocks and everything. But I feel like that's okay. Even if you don't have it, you could just copy paste it and then try out different iterations. So it is definitely a good feature, and I feel like even Figma should have it, but it's something that I could use for whatever else I'm getting from Figma. So yeah, so we're done with our first screen here. Now the second one we would need is something to enter the phone number or take in the user's phone number. So we can do that real quick. What I did was just select the frame and then just do Control C, Control V, and copies the frame. And you'll see in just a few minutes why I didn't create a frame from scratch. So what we'll do here is just select all the objects on this, and I'm gonna make sure I select everything. So just select, go from here, and if you go like this, it's gonna select the frame only. So what I recommend is keeping a selection inside frame, and then doing a Control G, which will group the objects. So Control G is for grouping it, and once you've grouped them, you can see it here, and you basically okay. So I think it's been. Let's keep going. We'll try to finish this off as soon as possible. Um, After grouping it, what we do now is quickly just make this here, which is to be black, and the opacity is 80. And what I want to do is just select this rectangle that I just made and turn it into a overlay. So what this is basically an overlay for the create account button. So as soon as you tap on create account, there's gonna be a slide for this thing that's gonna slide up like this. So it's just to so okay, that's our sign up portal. What we have here is, I'm just gonna take these out, make it black, or I'm gonna use a little toned down version of 21, and then place it on the top, and take the same element here, make it black, remove the drop shadow, we don't need it at the moment, and keep the font size as 24. Let's put sign up to directly. Maybe we could make the size of this smaller. So to do that, instead of changing the text size, what you can do is press K and then drag along the handle, so that makes the object or item smaller. And it stays in this mode right now. So all you have to do is press V, so that it goes back to the regular mode of font of scaling. So let me just do a little small nudge. This one I'll use bold up to eventually, and oops, okay, gotta go back to that. So now I need a small sign up field or phone number field. So I'm gonna use the same rectangle tool to craft out field again with the same width, 328. Make it full rounded, add a stroke to it, and I'll keep it as C4, and you guys will see why. So that just gives you a little bit of outlining on the text field. Next, I will just add a hint text. So it's going to be a phone number, and let's make this medium. It's 14. It's longer. And there is another way to make the font text field, and we're a little over the time. So if we should go over this part, and I could just take you guys over the final design file that I've created before. So let me just finish this page quick, and then show you guys the final product that was supposed to be done in like 30 minutes, but time explaining what I was doing. So yeah, Then let me just take this button from here and I'll just type this one out and let's sign up. Next, we can give the user different options to sign in as well. So we could write or sign up with, and then I could have some social media buttons. So that could be just small rectangles. And I could copy paste them. I'll select these guys and do this. And I could just add them here. And in the final design file, I've used an illustration. So if I show you the final design file here, which is what I had in mind to make, it had an illustration right here. So the reason why I'm not keeping the illustration now is to explain this one point, which is when you have an overlay of, say, when you start typing here, you're going to have a keyboard that will come up, and you don't want that to hide your field. So to combat that issue, what we'll do is keep the illustration out and keep this part up. So in that way, we have space for our keyboard to just come up. And similarly, even after you press sign up with the phone, it basically takes you to this page, which will ask you to verify the phone number. A lot of concepts that I've used to make this screen have already been explained before. The different rounding, the changing options for the text. So yeah, I mean, it's basically the same thing. I'm just going over this file now since I've gone over the time of 30 minutes. So I think you guys can simply just like take this UI ahead as well, because there isn't like much that I taught. I'll go over what were the decisions that I made while making this. That could be helpful. So after I click on sign up with phone, what happens is it takes me to this screen, which is verifying the SMS. So over here, there's a message saying that enter the 4-digit code sent to the phone number. So what I'm doing here is entering the phone number of the number that you've entered before. This keeps the user informed about, okay, that's what the phone number I entered, and if they've entered a wrong number, they would be waiting for it for like really long time, and that would be a very bad experience. So it's good to inform the users what action they have taken on what on what number. So that's one tip. Then the other one was if they haven't received a code, there's an option to resend the SMS, and if they've entered the wrong number, they could tap on this and correct whatever incorrect number they've added. Then we have a text here, which is basically before you sign up to any app or service, you have to accept some sort of terms of use and their privacy policy. So that text can before you sign up. So then what happens is it takes you to the successful UI. And some of you might be asking, okay, why isn't there a password for this sort of UI, for this sort of flow? And the reason for that is because a lot of apps now are moving away from the password based sign up and are moving more to a two-factor authentication based sign in or sign up. And you might have seen this already being done by Google, who send an SMS to your phone number or send an SMS to your other device. Apple does it, and a lot of new apps starting out in 2020 are taking this sort of approach, as passwords are becoming easier to crack, and two-factor authentication is stronger than a password. So this is what the trend is at the moment, and I've taken that with me while designing this UI. So yeah, OTP is safer. It's also used by a lot of credit card authentication and just to verify that it's actually really you. So I've explained one use case over here of an incorrect code. This is known as validation, and sometimes the user might enter an incorrect phone number or incorrect SMS. So what happens is you guide the user in what step they have done wrong. Exactly. Also, yeah, Mehak just said that it's is easier than remembering another password, and there are tons of different services you have created accounts on, and it's difficult to remember passwords for all. So OTP is definitely the way. So for validation over here, we are telling the user that, hey, you've entered an incorrect code, so please try again. And this helps the user find out, okay, what they've done is actually wrong. Instead of keeping no message here, it's always good to inform the user what is happening and keep them in loop with what is the next step to do. So after you verify, you're basically taken to the successful UI, and yeah, that's all for the sign up flow. Based on our diagram, we have covered the user interface aspect of it. We've also looked at the UX part of it with the error states, informing the user where they are, and informing them as much as possible, and keeping them on the app. So yeah, I hope you guys understood something about UI UX and designing on Figma. Alistair has a question. Aren't validation text usually placed below the field? So a lot of guidelines have mentioned that, okay, they have a validation below their text field. If I go to the material guide, I think I can point out to what he's saying. This is basically the error text. If you fill any sort of Google form or something, you might have seen something like this, which is the error message, or in this case, the message that we had over here, incorrect code. It's not really, like, it doesn't matter in my opinion. It's not important to place it like above or below. It's more about informing them or what went wrong. So it's fine to have it below as well as on the top. So I guess it's fine to have both. Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you want your app to look like. So that's just how you follow. So any tips on font combinations? I do have an awesome resource. It's called Font Joy. I think that's what it's called. So yeah, I think it's this one. So FontJoy is basically a website with different Google fonts paired together, and they're paired with AI. Apparently, I don't really know if that's paired with AI or it's doing it randomly, but the pairings are actually good. So in this case, you can see Montserrat being used with a serif font, and that's sort of like a trend. For reading, you need like a serif font, and for bigger text, you can use a sans serif font. So FontJoy is a pretty good resource. Do check it out. And you can do a lot of different things with the fonts on the right hand side, on the left hand side over here. So yeah. I have left the link for this file on the description, so you guys can refer to this file. Um, I'll also just quickly take you guys over this community feature on Figma, which has been added recently, and this has taken Figma to, I think, the next level. It gives you so many different assets to use in your UI design. There are different mockups, different wireframes, different icons. In fact, even for the keyboard you guys saw over here, I took it from an iOS UI kit available on Figma, and that was super helpful. So Figma is really good right now. I think it's the go-to tool for starting out designing. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Um, so I guess I have finished what I started out. What I wanted to explain to you guys was the two main things: a small intro to UI UX, and second was taking you guys through Figma, teaching very basic operations, and just giving you guys a little bit of a push or an insight into how UI UX designers work, and what they do, and how do you design a really quick user flow on Figma. So, so yeah, I hope you guys liked it. Um, Um, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think about this live stream. Was there anything wrong, or was your experience watching it? If there's anything you guys need, do reach out to me. That's my email. That's my university email. You can message me over there, or you can message me on Instagram as well. That's my Instagram handle. So yeah, I'm always open to questions. Keep asking, and yeah, that's. Would you be having more sessions? In fact, I have a session planned out with Suparna. It's something about Flutter. We work together on the software software project, software engineering project for final year. So we'll be having a session on that. Um, thanks, Glimmer Rose. We hope you do. Thank you, Mehak. Thank you, Osama. Thank you, Shivang. Thank you, Revati. Um, if you guys have any more questions about UI UX design, please ask them in the live chat. Thank you, Suparna. Um, okay, so this is my current. This is like my actually private Instagram page. That's where I'm mostly active, but I'm also active on my other Instagram, which is this one. And you guys can hello at me over here. So just like let me know what questions you guys have. I will answer them. It can be anything related to UI, UX, product design. If you guys want any, further workshops, let me know what you guys would like to hear about. Um, and yeah, I hope this was informative and you guys learned something new. Thank you, Smile. Really need an extended display for live streams. I'm actually using just one display on this. So yeah, personally like to see your work for sure, man. For sure, I'll take you through some of the stuff I do. So yeah, I mean, I think we're done with the live stream. Reach out to me on my handles. If you guys want anything, and yeah, put this back. And thank you everybody for attending. Bye. Oh, the playlist is in the description. You guys can check it out. Thank you, Osama. Bye. Bye, Pia. Yes, stay home, stay safe. And use protection. Yes, the sanitizers. Bye, guys.